Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4096. Today's date is 11th of June 2026. It's been almost like a night at almost like 10:39 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Okay, question is what kind of like a person I want to become? Okay, that's a really good question. All right. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? Couple of days ago, I read a book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People uh, by Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey, and I read this book, and I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. How do I supposed to do that? By asking question to myself and giving the honest answer. So I went to ChatGPT. I said that I read this book. I wanted to implement the value. Suggest me 20 question. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me 20 question. This is one of those question. Now regarding about the question says that what kind of like a person I want to become. What kind of like a person that I want to become? Uh person, yeah. Like it does not kind of like a like it's a very kind of like a vague regarding about the person, like who do you want to become? Okay, it's just like that na ki sometimes na I like if I'm kind of like a try to give the answer to myself and I'm try to give the honest answer. Okay, I am kind of like a somebody giving you example so that you might gonna understand. Okay, I'm from India, and in Indian household, usually mother are usually cook the food. Okay, why does my mother or like Indian mother? I'm not really sure about the US and Europe, probably in rest of the world, but in India, usually mother cooks the food mostly. Why does mother cook the food? Okay, like why? Because of kind of like a natural selection process, because the male person kind of like a go outside and kind of like earn money or kind of like a things and that, and women are kind of like a stay home, take care of their child, and kind of like a make the food, serve the food for their children, as well as kind of like a for the man, right? Like this is kind of like a something that key this actually going through kind of like a thousands of millions of years we've been kind of like a doing this same thing. Okay, and Indian context these are kind of like a simply still follow. Okay, like a still Indian women are kind of like a simply making food. Okay, so if I'm kind of like a thing from woman point of perspective, why she make food? Okay, is because of that ki her kid should supposed to be stay alive, her kids need a kind of like a nutrition value, her kids required to kind of like a simply become strong when they will become further future. She cooks the food for the man because man kind of like a take care of her and things and that. Okay, so basically this thing she kind of like a doing something not for her own purpose, like a not for she wanted to become something. No, she is a kind of like a doing something for kind of like a for kind of like a somebody for her next generation, for next her kid should supposed to be kind of like a become stronger and things and that. Okay, like basically is this thing na ki if I'm kind of like a tell you this thing. Okay, yeah, that ki some certain activity that we do is not because of we want to become this or we want to become that. No, we are kind of like doing something is because of for other people, for kind of like a things like why does kind of like your father goes to the office every single day, because he want to earn money, not just kind of like a somebody so that he should supposed to be spent on himself. No, he should supposed to spend that money on her family, her child, house, and things and that. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki um the question actually asks that ki who what kind of like person that you want to become. Okay, the kind of like obvious answer would be kind of like I wanted to become a doctor, an engineer, and things and that and that and that. There are so many kind of like a simply answer that you like. I'm kind of like a give the similar answer that I wanted to become this or that and that and that, but it does not kind of like a tell the real thing. Okay, yeah, like no one kind of like a simply went to the office because of that he is a kind of like engineer or he wanted to become a kind of like a somebody senior engineer or chief engineer. No, he kind of like a decided, he kind of like a thing that he wanted to become a promoted. It's not really that, but his not is a kind of like a main goal to kind of like a become a kind of like a chief engineer or things like that and that. Okay, he kind of like a go to the office, do his work is because of that he loved doing that work, and as well as the whatever the kind of like a money that he earn, he invests that money to his family, to his kind of like a kids and things, so that his next generation would kind of like a get better life and things like that and that. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, so I'm kind of like a sorry making the question kind of like a bit more kind of like a complicated. Like I yeah, probably like why cannot I say something like that ki I wanted to become a kind of like a this or that or pilot or engineer or doctor or police inspector. Why not I'm kind of like a say directly like a the answer would be kind of like a much more easier. Why are kind of like a you are doing complicated? Because neither I don't want to become like that. Like basically the things that I want to become or what kind of like a person that I want to become, that maybe designation is not exist probably. What do you mean? um okay, let me kind of like a I'm kind of like a thinking from very long term point of perspective, but let me kind of like a tell you something. Okay, yeah. So let's just say if I went back in time, almost like a maybe kind of like a 18 something, okay, 18th century, where Albert Einstein was kind of like a just a teenager. Okay, like he was kind of like a somebody that he is at the age of 17. Okay, I know that ki Albert Einstein will become something much more bigger in the future. I knew that thing. Okay, yeah. But still, I wanted to know from his point of perspective that what kind of like a person that he wanted to become. What might be kind of like answer he will kind of like a give. He might gonna say, I wanted to become a teacher, or I wanted to become something that he probably like a discover something he don't know, but he might think about that particular stuff and things and that and that. Like what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that like Albert Einstein became such a person that Albert Einstein became a kind of like a designation. Like his identity is became his designation. Like people are kind of like a refer that you are kind of like a Einstein level of genius. So this is what it is. Like basically is this thing for the Einstein, the designation is not created. He is became designation because he is that level of stuff. Okay. So like am I comparing myself with a kind of like Albert Einstein? No, definitely not. But what I'm saying is that na ki like what I want to become, I don't know. Okay, maybe I know, maybe I don't know. I wanted to do work. Okay, I wanted to do the work, and that work might have designation. I'm not really sure. Let me tell you something. I am recording artifact, these kind of like a stuff that you are kind of like a listening. I'm recording artifact since almost like a 11 year. The amount of value that I get from this artifact, I wanted to share this value to the people so that people will kind of like a connect with themselves more. Okay, yeah. And when they will kind of like a record their artifact, they will kind of like a connect their more with themselves, they understand themselves more, they kind of like a take the wiser decision about them life, they kind of like a look at the life in very different way, or positive approach, or positive kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. And I want to kind of like simply do this thing by building an application and change their perspective of looking at the life and things and that. Okay, I want to do that. Okay. Another thing is that ki I live in India, and education is a kind of like a very much fragile over here. In Indian education is a kind of like a still kind of like a simply focus on kind of like a simply just a kind of like a simply just reading, writing, and things and that. The real education still not really exist, and the education are the exist are kind of like available in costly, or available kind of like with the money, with the kind of like a private sectors and things and that. And the normal Indian person cannot able to be afford, because the government school are kind of like a very fragile. They didn't really have kind of like a proper school, proper kind of like assembly teachers, proper education, doesn't really have that thing. I wanted to build a Gurukul where kind of like every person, every child kind of like get the proper education. There is no like a higher and lower class. Like there is no kind of like a casteism system. Like every kind of like a children come to the Gurukul, learn a kind of like a better way, instead of kind of like a focus on exams and things and kind of like a big up stress. Gurukul is kind of like a focus on kind of like a simply evolving the brain, evolving their thought process, looking at the different point of perspective. This is kind of like a things that I wanted to become. Okay, I wanted to kind of like give them a kind of like a proper education, like regarding about that whatever I experienced through my education and whatever the knowledge that I get from the artifact. I kind of like a, the collide all the information and provide this kind of like a some better way to kind of like give the education to my child, to the every children of the India. This is I wanted to do. Okay. And that is the kind of like things that I wanted to do. Okay. Regarding about another thing is that I wanted to kind of like solely build such a tool where kind of like a people will kind of like assembly figure it out what kind of like assembly problem they have and what kind of like a better solution they have, they will kind of like assembly get. I wanted to kind of like assembly build a kind of like assembly such a machine that could predict the future. Okay, I called them as a Adam. Adam is a kind of like a AI, artificial intelligence, who can predict the future. Okay, this is a kind of like a things that I wanted to do. Because of this thing, people are kind of like a solve their problem. Like not people, like basically Adam is not for kind of like a massive people. Adam is specifically designed for kind of like some people who are kind of like somebody creating policies, kind of like a arranging the kind of like a institute organization, or kind of like a making better. Adam is kind of like a somebody run multiples of millions of consequences, wrong consequences, to find you kind of like a right consequences that might gonna kind of like add benefit to you, to your country, to your organization, to your kind of like a better human and things and that. I wanted to create that tool. Okay, so basically this is the stuff that I wanted to do. So tell me what kind of like a only person that I want to become. Okay, like I don't know, like basically is this thing that na ki I didn't really decided that ki I wanted to do this, do that. No, like I'm not kind of like a decided that what kind of like a person that I want to become. No, I wanted to do this. I'm kind of like a somebody solving the problem that I experience. I live in India. There are so much garbages in all around the India. Like you went to the every road, you might kind of like found garbage. I wanted to clean that garbage. I wanted to clean that garbage with kind of like a something much more sophisticated way, with a kind of like a something government authority, and kind of like a something my thought process and creativity I will gonna utilize to kind of like a somebody making sure that the garbage should supposed to be have less, or maybe kind of like a create such a garbage management system, so that it would be kind of like a much more better to kind of like a reduce the kind of like a garbage in India and things and that. I wanted to do this. Then tell me, this is the kind of like a stuff that I wanted to do. tell me then what kind of like a person that I want to become. I don't have any kind of like some answer. Okay, yeah. Like basically you might gonna say future visionistic, kind of like a teacher, or a kind of like a somebody a chairman of the company, or kind of like a something like that ki, a particular person who kind of like a build such a machine that could predict the future. I don't know, kind of like a give me whatever the kind of like a designation that I wanted to be. I just wanted to kind of like simply do this thing that add value in my life. My purpose of my life to kind of like build this thing to kind of like give them better value, better life, better opportunity in the future. This is the kind of like a things that I want to do. Okay, yeah. What kind of like a person that I want to become, I still doesn't really have any kind of like a answer. Because let me tell you one thing now, if I'm gonna say I wanted to become good person, I wanted to become kind of like a somebody that ki I'm gonna kind of like a giving the help to the poor person and things and that like throughout the life, throughout this artifact, I realized that ki there is no right, there is no wrong, there is no kind of like a somebody things. Okay, yeah, because right and wrong is does not exist without each other. Okay, if we remove the wrong thing, then right thing doesn't really become right thing. Why? Because of that it doesn't really have any comparison. Okay, yeah, like basically if I steal the money, that is a kind of like a wrong thing, then right thing is that not to steal the money. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing that we kind of like utilize a wrong thing first, and then we solve the problem, and we not to kind of like steal the money, then it become right thing. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing that creating right thing required a wrong thing. Okay, you cannot create a right thing without a wrong thing, because if there is no wrong thing, then how do I supposed to create the right thing? Okay, so basically right and wrong, evil and angel does not exist without each other. They are always within itself. Okay, so this is what it is. So basically is this thing, if I'm gonna say I wanted to become a good person in my life, I wanted to kind of like add value in my life, I'm not really sure why. Because of that I don't know, I couldn't able to be see the future. I don't know what kind of like consequences will gonna happen. My approach is kind of like I will try to put all my effort to kind of like add value in people's life and things and that. But I don't know, things might be very much complicated. I haven't really seen the future. I don't know what will gonna happen. I have full confidence and faith in myself, but future are kind of like unpredictable. Okay, so there are a lot of things. Okay, there is a one thing for sure that I will gonna do this thing. I will gonna make sure that add much more value in my life and things and that. What kind of like a person that I will gonna become? Maybe this kind of like somebody answer leave to the people who kind of like somebody decide that who am I, what am I, and what kind of like a person and things and that. But dude, if you're not kind of like somebody confidence enough regarding about the giving the question, the giving the answer, then how do you supposed to become that particular person? The simple question is that what kind of like a person that you became. Like there are kind of like a multiple kind of like a somebody category of this thing. Okay, let me kind of like a somebody giving you. Okay, yeah. Doer. Are you the kind of like a particular person who are doer? Uh like a doer. Yeah, like if I'm gonna say that thing, I wanted to doer means like that, no? The particular person who can't really wait for kind of like some things, whatever the kind of like opportunity that it has, grab it, take it, and doing it. Okay, yeah. So am I the doer person? Yeah, I'm consider myself I am a kind of like a doer person. Okay, yeah. The lazy person can consider himself as a doer person. Yeah, if you ask this question to yourself that are you doer to a lazy person, that particular person might gonna say yes. So what kind of like a difference between me and lazy person? Nothing really at all, na? Okay, because he is consider himself as a doer, I also consider myself doer. Okay, yeah. The problem is that we need a kind of like a third person perspective to understand that okay, this is kind of like a doer or not. How do I supposed to consider myself I'm a doer? Like I wanted to do the things, I will gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do this, do that every single day. I kind of like wake up, build my application and things and that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. A lazy person might gonna do less, but he's also doing something. Okay, yeah. but still I would not consider myself as a kind of like a doer, because I am not a kind of like authorized person to consider myself I'm a doer. I'm kind of like a just doing it. Okay, yeah. All right. Another thing is that authentic creator. Yeah, I'm creating independence and free. Yeah, like these are kind of like affirmation words and things and that, and basically it's this thing na ki, like affirmation word is just like, it kind of like a crippled me from inside. Okay, like basically let me tell you one thing na, throughout my entire period of lifetime I always been criticized regarding about me, my choices and things and that. Okay, yeah. And because of this criticism I kind of like improve a lot. I kind of like make myself better and things and that. But people are kind of like a give kind of like affirmation word, or people are try to kind of like a say good thing, that ki you did this, you did that. It, I not to listen that thing that much. Why? Because of that na ki it add a full stop. Okay, in your life. Let me tell you one thing, what is actually full stop means what. Okay, a satisfaction. Okay, when you are kind of like a satisfied, you are kind of like a putting little less effort to kind of like a push yourself further. Let me tell you one thing, that key, when you get criticized, or when you kind of like a really put yourself in uncomfortable position, uncomfortable state, then you are always wanted to kind of like a push yourself a little bit harder, kind of like a little bit better and things and that. But once you got settled, then probably you are kind of like a somebody that key stagnant. You are kind of like a somebody that key you will decay from inside, because there is nothing really at all. And that satisfaction is actually came from kind of like a people are kind of like a say this thing, you are really good, you are really great, things and that. Right now in my life till the moment I didn't get that many kind of like affirmation word and things and that. That is really good. But in the future I might gonna get a lot. Okay, yeah. People might gonna consider me so many things, they might gonna say you are this, you are that, you are that, you are that. And this is kind of like a somebody that key, I don't want that thing. I don't want to kind of like hear this thing, because I don't want to settle, because I do know myself that key, when I kind of like people are kind of like saying this thing, that key you are kind of like did this and did that and things that, then I feel like not good. Okay, yeah. I feel like something that key, like, I don't know, yeah. But still it's a kind of like a people choice. Okay, if I'm kind of like putting my work, and because of my work it add value in his life, obviously he would kind of like a thanks and things and that, which is kind of like really good. And it's my kind of like a responsibility to accept that good gesture, and kind of like a saying thank you, which will be kind of like a really good. Okay, yeah, I also kind of like a say this thank you, but when it kind of like a too much na, then too much means what. Okay, yeah. Also I live in India. Okay, and India, it has a kind of like a very big fan culture, like a very big fan culture. People are kind of like so crazy for kind of like other people and things and that. Like take a Shah Rukh Khan. Okay, yeah. Shah Rukh Khan has a kind of like a somebody, he is living in Bombay. He is kind of like have a big house, and in front of big house there are almost like a thousands of people are kind of like waiting for him, for kind of like somebody see him and things and that every single day. Okay, yeah. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that ki, does Shah Rukh Khan kind of like get overwhelmed by all those things? Yeah, definitely. But does he kind of like take that much seriously? No, he does not take that much seriously. Why? Because he got really experience. He understand that ki, his value does not kind of like depend on people are kind of like giving affirmation word. No, he kind of like believe on his work. He kind of like put effort on his work. And how? Because he understand, he got the experience. I am not experienced. If someone kind of like said me you are really good, I was kind of like constantly day and night thinking about that. Oh, I did something really good. I'm kind of like blushing from inside. And I don't want that. I don't want that. These are kind of like experience I have to be learn. Okay, like a Shah Rukh Khan, like he just kind of like somebody, he always kind of like somebody, he always knew that he millions of people are following him and things and that, but still he kind of like a focus on his work. He kind of like a show his credibility, his kind of like a some effort from his work, not from kind of like a some affirmation from the people. I don't know. So the long story short, okay, yeah, which person do I want to become? What kind of like a person that I want to become? If I'm gonna kind of like a wrap up everything, I wanted to become such a person who will gonna add value in the people life, or try to add value in people life. Okay, will means kind of like a very sure, and like a future is not really sure, but try would be much more better. I will gonna try all my effort to kind of like add value in the people life. Okay, yeah, I might gonna say will. Okay, yeah, I will kind of like add a value in the people life too. Try or will, I'm not really sure about that. Okay, I will, yeah, I'm pretty much sure I will gonna add value in people life. This is the person that I want to become. All right, this is it, this end, and thank you.